Yeah, so business financing, we got into the business about 6 years ago, and recently we hit a milestone where we've provided $10 billion in funding to more than 650,000 loans and more than 250,000 unique businesses since we've gotten after this. And it took us 23 months roughly to distribute the first $1 billion of financing to our business clients, and we're now doing more than $1 billion per quarter.
Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast. I'm Zack Miller. In just 5 years, PayPal's business financing solutions have serviced over 225,000 small businesses around the world with funding. Between PayPal Working Capital and PayPal Business Loans, the company has recently surpassed $10 billion of capital it's lent out to SMBs. And when you speak to Darrell Esch, VP of Global Credit at PayPal, you get the feeling PayPal is just getting started. We discussed this milestone and how PayPal's lending business has evolved over the past 5 years. Darrell describes how PayPal financing solutions are positioned in an SMB market that's getting significantly more competitive. Lastly, because PayPal is embedded in its borrowers' businesses, Darrell shares some data about how businesses perform after tapping PayPal for capital. Darrell Esch is my guest today on the Tearsheet Podcast. Before we continue with our program, I'd like to thank our sponsor, MX, for supporting Tearsheet's work. MX is the leading data platform for banks, credit unions, and fintechs, enabling its clients and partners to easily collect, enhance, analyze, present, and act on financial data.
Hey, Zack, I'm Darrell Esch. I'm the Senior Vice President and Head of Credit Products at PayPal. I've been with PayPal for about 9 years now, after 20 years in the banking industry, and it's been a great ride, and got to see a lot of change over those years, and delighted to be here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here, Darrell. So before we jump into the main part of the interview, I'm curious about that transition from 20 years in the banking industry to the past 9 at PayPal. What was that transition like for you?
Oh, it's been fabulous. And my hair got a little longer along the way. The uniform got a little more casual, but it's really been great. And having that deep foundational education that I got in the banking industry, including running some lending businesses at one of the big banks in the country, I've had just this opportunity. I guess the transition, there's the energy level and the ability to execute with speed that's just so exciting in this whole fintech industry, and at PayPal in particular, where we're really a mission-oriented company, and the amount of good that we can do at a one-to-one level has just been fantastic. It's been a great transition.
That's amazing. And long-term, can banks compete against sort of that mission-driven, fast move, break things like philosophy?
Sure. Look, banks are always going to be pillars in their community and have a part to do at large scale. We have the opportunity, and other fintechs, I think, have the opportunities to kind of step in and fill in some of the gaps.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's switch to PayPal in particular. I know your group hit a recent milestone. Can you explain to the audience what that was and what it says about the business?
Yeah, so business financing, we got into the business about 6 years ago, and recently we hit a milestone where we've provided $10 billion in funding to more than 650,000 loans and more than 250,000 unique businesses since we've gotten after this. And it took us 23 months roughly to distribute the first $1 billion of financing to our business clients, and we're now doing more than $1 billion per quarter.
Wow, that's amazing. And business finance includes both working capital and business loans. Can you describe the unit, I guess?
It does, yeah. So we've got two primary products. We have PayPal Working Capital, which is the program we launched back in 2013, and that program it's transactions from $1,000 to $200,000. It's a program that's exclusively for PayPal merchants members who are selling on the PayPal network, and all of the underwriting decisioning for that program is based on the flow of funds and the relationship insights that we have at PayPal specifically with those clients. And then because it's a member-driven program, It's all online. Clients start with a login, and so therefore it's a very streamlined process. Generally takes about 3 to 5 minutes to get through the process. And if you're approved and accept the offer, the funds go directly into your PayPal account, and generally faster than you can toggle over to see the money hit. So this is financing within minutes. And then the repayment process is very simple. It just comes out as a portion of the sales that are going through the PayPal network. That's PayPal Working Capital. And then PayPal Business Loan is a little more traditional, where there are weekly scheduled set amount payments that come out of the client's bank account. And this is available not only for PayPal clients, but new to PayPal customers, first-time PayPal users as well. And these are loans from $5,000 all the way up to $500,000. There's a lot of automation built into the PayPal Business Loan. It's still a very streamlined process, but we also have on top of that sort of that traditional back-end element of actual underwriters and client service reps who are working with clients to actually complete the applications. But it's still generally executed within a couple of days.
Customer expectations have changed. People are looking to their financial institutions to provide them with experiences that fit their lifestyles. That doesn't mean just dumping data on them. It means providing proactive, personalized, and predictive advice. That's where Money App with Pulse comes in. Developed by MX, the Personal Finance Manager makes it possible to engage customers on every level, from professional budgeters to people who try to avoid personal finance entirely. This can lead to a 60% increase in logins and a 28% increase in NPS. See the MX platform in action. Ask for a demo at MX, that's the letters M and X.com. Also targeting SMB borrowers?
Absolutely, targeting SMB borrowers, and again with a cap of up to $500,000 on that PayPal Business Loan. Our clients generally are in the 10 million and lower in sales levels. It's not always; sometimes they're much bigger than that. But the sweet spot is generally in that less than 10 million for PayPal Business Loan, and really even below $1 million for PayPal Working Capital.
Got it. And I'm curious to hear how the Business Financing Solutions Group, I guess, how the business has evolved over the past 5 years. You talked a little bit about the underwriting growth, but I'm just curious in general how it's grown, and particularly how borrowers have evolved, if they have evolved over the past few years.
Yeah. So the program, we started again back in late 2013. I'd already been in PayPal for a few years when I was asked to come over and get this program running, and based on my past banking experience and business lending experience. And we took a very deliberate kind of step-by-step approach to this. We wanted to make sure that if we were going to do this, and we got into it because our customers were asking us to, as you can imagine, after the financial crisis, where small business lending never really fully bounced back from the traditional providers. And this is, as I mentioned, our opportunity is to pop in and fill gaps where the needs arise. So our customers really pulled us into this, and we wanted to make sure though that this was going to be a viable, sustainable program, and so we were very deliberate about growing it in steps. So, for example, when we started back in 2013, we capped the program at $20,000 PayPal Working Capital. So $20,000 was the largest transaction that could be taken. And we wanted to make sure that the demand was there. We wanted to make sure that everything worked properly, that the underwriting models were going to be viable. And step by step, we got larger and larger. And as I said, working capital is all the way up to $200,000 transactions now. A year after we launched in the U.S., we expanded the program to the U.K. and to Australia. And here recently, just at the end of last year, we launched the program in Germany as well. So that's some of the growth there on the working capital side. And PayPal Business Loan, this was a transaction that started with we tested a strategic partnership with a company called Swift Financial. They were offering this service, and as with working capital, our customers really pulled us in to this space. And what we were finding, and probably my biggest surprise in the whole program over these years, has been how high the demand is. So we were finding that the $200,000 limit, or back at the time when we acquired Swift, I think we were only at $100,000 maximum loan without manual underwriters, without actual people doing the underwriting. We were running into some barriers where we had larger clients who were looking for financing above what we could do. Likewise, customers who were new to PayPal, merchants who were new to PayPal coming in, we didn't have enough underwriting information on the network with PayPal Working Capital, so we needed to supplement that. We ended up acquiring Swift at the end of late in 2017, and that's what brought the PayPal Business Loan product, where this more traditional installment loan came to be. It's all still generally short-term financing, though. These are capped on PayPal Business Loan. It's a maximum 1-year term, and on PayPal Working Capital, while it's not because you're paying back a portion of your sales, it's not a specific timeline involved on the repayment, but they're generally less than 2 years.
Well, and I guess over that time period also, we've, I think you guys were relatively early in terms of targeting the SMB borrower, but we've seen, at least on this podcast, a lot of new entrants into the space. How are you positioning both products, I guess, vis-a-vis some of the other entrants that are coming in?
Well, with PayPal Working Capital, the primary differentiator is it is a member-driven program. So
right,
if
you're already in the system.
If you're already in the system and you're using PayPal, it's kind of hard to beat in this. It's just so convenient for the sellers. They're getting access that they frankly really wouldn't get from a traditional provider, and even from an untraditional provider, they're going to have a hard time matching the kind of offers we can make, because we've got such deep insights on the clients. Not only that, but we've got long-standing relationships, and we're such a critical part to a lot of our clients' cash flow and repayment, and so it just makes sense for them to come straight to PayPal. And then on the PayPal Business Loan side, we're really again, we are serving existing PayPal clients with that as we go upstream, but we've just got great depth and capability. So a gentleman named Doug Bland, who is the president at Swift, who runs business financing for us around the world now on my team. He's a more than 2 decades business lender, came from the banking industry as well. We've just got great depth and experience there, and really operate with all that great banking experience, but on sort of that nimble, fast technology platforms that the banks really just can't afford to do anymore.
Got it. And particularly with working capital, I mean, because it's a member program, and they're sitting within the ecosystem, I assume you have a lot of data on how these businesses perform before and after tapping some capital with you guys. Can you talk about what you're seeing there?
Yeah, and this is one of the great things. And I'm really in love with this program, and we're so proud of it, and our customers love it. And this we refer to it internally as Dream Fuel, and it shows in the results. So more than half of the PayPal Working Capital borrowing that's done is for procuring inventory. So our clients are overwhelmingly using PayPal Working Capital to buy inventory that they then sell on the network. So for us, it creates that great flywheel effect that you're processing on our network. You need funding to grow your business. We feel we can comfortably do that. And by the way, then you go buy more inventory that you sell on the network. For the clients, this selling or using it to procure inventory, they're frequently doing things where they're buying in bulk to get discounts, or they might have a supplier who has a closeout tranche of inventory that they're getting first dibs on. And so the opportunity to get this financing in minutes, to get back and make that decision of securing that inventory is really valuable to them. And so what we see is that clients who are using PayPal Working Capital on average are seeing a 24% growth in their sales after taking the funds, and 82% of those clients see that growth happen in the first 3 months. Which again, it's intuitive because they're buying inventory they otherwise don't have the funds to procure, and they're buying it with the belief that they can obviously then resell it. So it's been a great driver for growth.
Dream Fuel, huh?
Dream Fuel, indeed.
And do you have data, or at least even a qualitative feel for how many of these borrowers are coming back to the trough, I guess, to continue to borrow with you guys, to interact with you guys?
Well more than half come back. And so even if you just do the simple math that I shared, we've done 650,000 unique transactions to, at the time, 225,000 unique customers. We're now more than 250,000. So on average, almost three uses per client who's ever used the program.
Wow. And I guess in the time we have remaining in the conversation, I'd love to talk about sort of looking forward, where you're taking, business financing at PayPal, and both from a product point of view and from a marketing point of view, what your plans are for the future.
Well, there are certainly unmet needs out there still. I'm not what I'm not going to do, unfortunately, for you today is disclose any
Of course,
plans of launches coming. But a couple of things that are relatively intuitive. So on top of just going into Germany, we also announced we've done a partnership in Mexico with a company called Confio, who is a fintech provider in Mexico, where it didn't make sense for us from an efficiency perspective to bring the proprietary program into Mexico yet. So we found a partner where we can still use some of our relationship insights to make a viable program and get the client what they need. So I think we've got that. We've also we've started a pilot in Canada with a PayPal business loan now as well. So it makes sense for us to continue to go where we're not in our big markets in the company. So there's still opportunity for geographic expansion out there, quite a good bit of it, since we're only in US, UK, Australia, Germany, and now just barely starting programs in Mexico and Canada. So more opportunity to come from a geography perspective. What we are finding is this demand is pretty universal around the planet, that small businesses and entrepreneurs have a hard time getting the funding they need from traditional sources. And then on top of that, there's still categories. We've only got the two products. We've got this short-term working capital for our existing members and the short-term PayPal business loan for newer customers generally. And so there are still needs unmet out there for shorter-term financing, but nothing definitive in the plans there yet. But we've taken this step by step, and we've probably done no less than 30 or 40 enhancements along the way. Sometimes it's things that are invisible to the customers where it's just new modeling, but a big product, it makes a big difference to the client because those new models generally equal new access.
Mm. And Darrell, like going back to the geographic expansion, how do you prioritize a new geography? Like what makes a good geography, for a PayPal target?
Yeah, I think the two primary variables are the size of the market for us. So it's how much business does PayPal, the core business, have? Because at the end of it, we're still here. This is an ancillary service. It's a membership product that helps make the existing services of PayPal better. And so markets of volume make sense. And then the other variable primarily is how friendly the regulatory environment is and how simple it is or how difficult it would be to bring a capability to market.
That makes sense. Darrell, thank you so much for joining us on the Tearsheet Podcast today.
Zack, it's been a real pleasure. I love talking about this. Last thing I will say is that in my now 30 plus years of financial services and financial related things, I've literally never come across a program like PayPal Working Capital in particular that has such client adoration and love. It really is. It's probably the most been received with more enthusiasm of anything I've seen in my career.
That's awesome. Thanks again, Darrell.
All right, Zack. Thank you.